should win the title and make Cody chase again, we could get more people who can potentially challenge him as well. Sami, Solo, Orton, Black Priest, etc. I completely agree with you. I think Drew McIntyre should have been won that championship. And the fact that they didn't want to pull the trigger at WrestlePalooza, and then they also didn't pull the trigger at Saturday Night's main event, I think the juice is worth the squeeze when it comes to the story of Cody chasing the championship again. And let me know your wrestling hot takes down in the comments below. It can be current day or it can be in history, and you'll have a chance of being in the next episode. I wouldn't necessarily say I'm tired of Cody Rhodes. I'm not. However, over the last couple of years, obviously it's all been Cody dictated. It's all been about him finishing the story. It's been very Cody heavy, especially when it comes to that championship. He held it for a year already. He's already won and beaten his fair share of opponents. Why not go put the title back on Drew McIntyre for the first time in years as well? Because I think where Drew McIntyre now is a very unfortunate spot where I don't know what you do with him next. I feel like after losing to Cody so many times, after chatting so much shit to him, it kind of leaves Drew in a spot where he needs his credibility back. But between losing to Cody multiple times and then he was about to get into this Jacob Fatu thing, and now Fatu is injured for a little bit, or at least he's about to get those Brian Griffin teeth, but whatever. Definitely would have freshened up SmackDown a little bit if Drew became champion, so I hope they make that mistake right eventually. Just because you are in NXT or any brand for a long time doesn't mean you have to be a champion. To some extent I agree, to some extent I disagree, because I think there's been quite a few people over the years that definitely should have become champion and they haven't yet for some reason, or maybe they never did, or maybe they became champion and then they fell off. I'm thinking of the obvious examples like Dolph Ziggler, for example, a guy that absolutely should have been world champion again after 2013, but unfortunately it just didn't really happen. I'm thinking of, obviously I made a video recently about LA Knight. He's another guy who was on SmackDown for a long time and then he's now on Monday Night Raw, but he is a guy that I do think has to be champion at some point. When you're a guy that talks as much as LA Knight, and when you have that character where you've got the Kavorka, you've got the loudmouth energy, you kind of have to back it up eventually, or all his credibility, much like Drew McIntyre's in a way, is completely wasted. But then in some examples, I do see your point. There are certain people on these rosters who the crowd will love to say, oh, this person deserves a push, or this person deserves a push. They've been around for ages, and some of those people don't really deserve a push. Hot take: the SmackDown men's mid-card and tag team division is the best division in WWE currently. On one hand, when you look at Sami Zayn and the revival of the United States Championship, I see your vision. I think what Sami Zayn did for that title in such a short space of time is really, really impressive. And it is now continuing on with another absolute gem in Ilya Dragunov. So if you mean that in terms of mid-card, then yeah. But if you're talking about Julia and her US title reign, I can't. And if you're talking about the SmackDown tag division, as in the same one with the SmackDown tag division, no. Before the Wyatt Six returned, I would absolutely agree with you that the SmackDown tag division was on fire. They were cooking. They had those TLC matches. It was great. And then ever since the Wyatt Six came back, they won the championships, and the roster spent a lot of time just being like, hey guys, so we're all gonna team up and fuck off these spooky guys, right? We need to deal with them. And it got really monotonous in those times. And so I think SmackDown has all the potential in the world to get back to where it was, but right now I'm not like crazy about them. But I think it is just an overall problem with WWE in general nowadays. It's that it can have great moments, but generally a lot of the things you see on TV are not exciting. It's flat sometimes, you know? And the SmackDown tag division is definitely one of those things that sometimes it can just feel a little bit like, off topic, but I think the Bellas feud back in 2014 could have wrapped up with better fanfare. I've always held the idea that Brie should have cost Nikki the Divas title at Survivor Series and revealed throughout the whole month of her being Nikki's servant, Brie was actually a double agent for AJ Lee, leading to a culmination in either a street fight or an unsanctioned match at WrestleMania 31, with Brie emerging the winner. P.S. What would you call a tag team with AJ Lee and Brie Bella? AJ Lee and Brie Bella. Crazy Chicks? Or here's another name, let's light up Brie mode. But yeah, I definitely think the booking of Bella versus Bella could have gone on for longer, and it definitely could have been better than what we got. And I think maybe if the women's evolution was a little bit more advanced, we may have got something like that where it was unsanctioned. But unfortunately, early 2015 was still kind of in that era where we were just getting out of the Divas era. Like, we had seen a bit of a transition, but in terms of like WrestleMania, it wasn't really there yet. But I definitely think WWE could have done better with with Bella versus Bella. I mean, you think about how big that was initially at SummerSlam 2014 when Nikki turned on Brie and Triple H is there and Stephanie McMahon is there, like, and think about the record ratings they would have got on Total Divas if it was booked a little bit better. Dirty Dom should start his path toward a WWE World title in 2026. The fans are behind him and he's currently showing by his personality and in-ring ability that he is ready for that spot. I don't even think that's a hot take. I think that is just something they are doing and should be doing. Dominic Mysterio is absolutely ready for that next leap into the world title picture. Even if he doesn't win it in his first attempt, he's definitely ready to be given a shot, like maybe not at WrestleMania next year because that feels a layup for the Vision. It feels a layup for either Braun Breaker more than likely or Bronson Reed to win the world title at WrestleMania next year. But it is certainly something that they should have in mind leading forward. And listen, I want Rey Mysterio to go on forever more than the next guy. But at the same time, he's had surgery 5 times. In his left knee. So maybe we're heading down a path right now where Dominic retires Rey, gets ultra heat for retiring his dad, but then he also kind of still has the kind of heat where he's getting booed but cheered like tremendously. He drops the Triple AR belt, he drops the IC belt, and then he heads into the world title scene. I can see that being where we're going. But that's the kind of thing you can slow burn throughout 2026. The only way John Cena's farewell tour can be redeemed is if his last match is against Austin Theory. Listen, man, I ride Austin No. Not what I meant to say. But I really do ride for Austin Theory. I think there is still something there with him. I really do think there is still more potential untapped with Austin Theory, and I still think there is time to rebuild his character and get him back to being where he needs to be. However, with that being said, I do not want to see him as John Cena's final opponent. He already beat John Cena at WrestleMania 39, so as much as that is kind of forgotten history at this point, he's already got his clean win over Cena. They can still go ahead and reference that to put him over a little bit and get his heat back. Like, I don't think in any scenario an A-Town down is going to be the move to end John Cena for good. Ooh, wait, I just had another idea. What if in John Cena's final match, as Gunther's facing him, he powerbombs him 17 times for all the world championships and then puts him to sleep? Who cares? Cinema. El Grande Americano was supposed to be a bad parody of a luchador. It was supposed to be Chad becoming a luchador for popularity without understanding the history or core values of lucha libre. But Ludwig's version is just a generic luchador. I still like Ludwig's version, but I feel like bringing in Rio and Bravo has ruined it a little bit. And obviously Chad Gable's version is still like the best one in my opinion. I think it worked best with Chad because when Chad was doing it, you knew he wasn't actually taking it seriously. And the bit around whether or not it was Chad Gable and the eventual reveal that was coming was all kind of exciting. It was fun and it made sense and it went with how much we like Chad Gable, the man himself. Whereas when it comes to Ludwig Kaiser, I don't even really remember Ludwig Kaiser when I'm looking at him. I'm like, okay, I know that's Ludwig, but like, this is an entirely different spin on Americano now. It's still good in spots. I'm glad Ludwig is doing something finally, but it also just isn't the same. So I'm excited for Chad Gable to come back and restore what El Grande Americano was. Oh, and not to mention the eventual moment when Chad Gable slips up and we know it's him or someone takes off the mask, it's going to be gold. WWE should stop hiring talent if they're just gonna waste them and eventually fire them. So many wrestlers are hired, then they are underutilized or never utilized. Yeah, look, I completely agree with you. WWE has had this issue for a long time. They consistently hire talent that has all the potential, all the hype behind them in the world, and sometimes it works out really well and you get a gem that turns into a WWE legend, and other times they sign someone and don't do anything with them and then completely kill their momentum and they're released, and that sucks. Nathan Frazier really showed he can hang with top talent when he had a banger with Ilya. Listen, man, I don't doubt that Nathan Frazier is incredibly talented. However, his brain is clearly malfunctioning because he supports Tottenham Hotspur for some reason. And what do we think of Tottenham? Shit. What do we think of shit? Tottenham. Seth isn't even that good in ring. I think there are countless others that are better. This is not to say Seth isn't good in ring. You know, I see this argument way too much and it is kind of jarring because Seth Rollins has absolutely been overexposed both in this era and the last era. Throughout his entire career, he has arguably been around too much and been too consistent. So on one hand, people are kind of tired of seeing him all the time, especially after this year. And two, I think people take for granted how good and how consistent he is in the ring. But in terms of being being good in the ring, he is absolutely one of the best of his generation. Are there people that are better than him in ring? Absolutely, but that doesn't mean he isn't good. Motor City Machine Guns have been treated terribly by the WWE. Having them lose to the MFT twice now is disgusting. Also touched my...
Oh my god.
Nikki was only ever good in the Natty Show Total Divas. What? Okay, you don't need to put down the Total Divas GOAT to bring up the Total Divas boat, okay? They act like two legends cannot coexist. El Grande Americano should win gold just for Gunther to return and beat up the disgrace to the sport that Ludwig has become. Honestly, that would be a bit of a plot twist. Imagine we're all waiting for this Americano fatal four-way, this big Americano off, and then it's actually Gunther to come back, rip off the mask and be like, Ludwig, what the hell are you doing? Bam! AEW is legitimately more unpredictable than WWE is. I mean, to be fair, it's not hard. I could predict the next month, 2 months, 3 months of Monday Night Raw, and I know I'd be damn near spot on. Jay should have turned heel at SNME. By the way, love the vids and GGMU. Come on, United! And yeah, I definitely think Jey Uso's heel turn, or whatever the next character development is coming sooner rather than later. And it may just happen at War Games, you never know. I don't entirely watch AEW, so I don't know if it's happened or not, but I think it would be interesting to see how Penta would be as a heel. If memory serves, I'm pretty sure he did have a heel run, right? Was that not Penta Oscuro? Was that not the thing with Alex Abrahantes? He was a heel right then? Sorry, I have the worst memory in the world, but I'm fairly sure Penta Oscuro was his heel run. And from what I remember, it was a pretty decent run. And by the way, the heel theme he had, banger. I don't think this is that hot of a take, but NXT UK themes were fire. Yo, ball knowledge. I am actually currently working on a retrospective for NXT UK because I think it is such an interesting time in NXT history, and there are a lot of hidden gems about that brand. Anyway, I'm on the road to a 250,000 subscribers, so subscribe and tell a friend about this channel. Bye!